Greetings, molweni, molweni nonke. You're welcome to unmute and say hi if you want, but otherwise, please do keep yourselves muted. Nice to see you all. Ndiyavuya ukunibona nonke. Namkeleki. So welcome to our webinar. And yeah, thank you for joining. We'll probably just take like a little minute here to settle. I see there's a few more folks popping in on the into the waiting room. It's fashionable to be late for these kinds of things these days.
African time.
And then I'm going to just introduce to you guys, although most of you probably know her and she doesn't need much introduction these days, but Mercy Hombakazi, who's joining us all the way from the beautiful, probably the best place in the world, Bulungula village, Ngasekhoga, Empuma Colony, Eastern Cape, Emaxhoseni. So thank you, Sis Mercy Wamkelekile.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for having me. Molweni nonke.
Ewe, enkosi. Uphila njani namhlanje, mam?
Ndiphilile akhonto kushushu ke apha namhlanje, so it's quite warm. It's like 28 degrees. I know people from the Western Cape are envying us, but we have the best weather. I always say I live in the most beautiful spot in the world, in Bulungula. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Such a pleasure. You're so welcome. Thank you for returning. Obviously, we did our interview webinar last year as well, which was really great. So it's really nice to have you here again. And this time, you've got another book. I've been meaning to write a book for like 20 years. I think you've done 3 now in like, I don't know, 5 years. So I think I've got to move to the village. I'll probably be more productive. The city is slowing me down, I think.
Yeah, you need a touch of a village. Yeah.
But
sure.
you know, it's easy to always come up with excuses. I think we just got to do things in this life, and you are someone that strikes me as someone who really just gets down and does things, and you're a huge source of inspiration to me, and yeah, huge respect. I mean, you just have such an amazing story, so many interesting influences. I know you spent time in Ireland. I think you've got 2 master's degrees. This is now your 3rd book. You have your own business creating all these beautiful crafts with the beaded stethoscopes and the dog collars. I still want one of those dog collars for Tanuki. And yeah, beautiful earrings. I mean, there's endless amounts of beautiful things that you create and different businesses that you run. And then on top of that all, I keep seeing these posts about a whole 500 cabbages and 1,000 potatoes, no doubt influenced by Ireland. But yeah, your farming as well is great. So really, Sis, I just want to say well done to you for everything you do, and you're a huge inspiration, I'm sure, to many others. And on top of that, you got time to do lots of live social posts talking about things that are important to you and speaking out courageously. So yeah, you really are a huge inspiration. And
thank you,
Sis Homba, as well. You know, it's Freedom Day tomorrow. Imini Yenkululeko. I see also translated as Independence Day. So it's quite it's possibly one of the most important days, I think, in South Africa, up in Mzansi, because it's theoretically the end of institutionalized apartheid, and it's also the beginning of the new South Africa. So, you know, it literally is the birth of our nation in many ways. So for me, it's a very, very meaningful day. So again, I'm super honored to have you. And also everyone who's here, you know, welcome, guys. Thank you so much for supporting Ubuntu Bridge and interested in supporting also Mercy, and yeah, just being here for the Xhosa culture in general as well, and Abenguni people and all the people of South Africa, and obviously all the cultures, you know, the cultures of the world, including my own ancestral cultures, which of course some of which we share. We all share certain ancestral cultures, which is beautiful, and I really feel like it's a chance for us always to celebrate our collective heritage. And even if we're not born into some particular cultures, I really feel blessed by this modern world where we're able to access the wisdom and the beauty of so many different cultures. Of course, it hasn't come through always in the easiest of way. Like colonialism wasn't there to necessarily find and promote and glorify indigenous cultures, but at least in this time and age, it seems like we're getting the chance, and there's more platforms for people like you, Sis Mercy, to really share the wealth and the wisdom and the richness of your heritage, your recent heritage, your cultural heritage. And it's such a gift to all of us. So thank you. I think this is a long introduction. Homba, where would you like to start? I mean, this is your third book. Do you want to share a little bit about the background of how you got to this book? That'll be, yeah, let's start there.
Yeah. Thank you, Craig. So, hello, everyone. Molweni, I've greeted already. So happy to have everybody here. So the book is called Don't Upset Xhosa. It looks like this. You'll see it in bookstores, exclusive books, bargain books, on Loot, and Take a Lot. You'll see it. So it came about because in 2018 December, I came back to South Africa from France, where I studied my double master's degree in agriculture and climate change, and also in food security. So I have a background in agriculture, like from my bachelor's, my honors, and my master's that I didn't finish from Fort Hare University here in South Africa, Eastern Cape. So when I came back to the country, I mean, I was trying to get a job, and the frustration, and I decided to go back to my mom, to the village. So in December 2019, because I had lived 1 year in Tata, and then in December 2019, I decided to go live at home. And I think my mother had figured that I was a little bit frustrated. So she figured that I love taking pictures of local things, like home things, if she made bread, if she cooked imifino and all that. So it started like that. And then I'll just tell stories because I'm a person, I love having a purpose in life, and for a minute I felt like I didn't have a purpose because I was there sitting with my qualifications and no progress. And then I started taking pictures, and I did lessons like every day at 7 during the week and maybe during weekends. And people were like, "Why don't you write a book?" And I had already written 2 books at the time, so this started as that. And I wrote a manuscript and I finished it. It was finished I published it last year. So in 2020 I had kind of completed it. And so it was accepted for publication by Jonathan Bow, and it came about. So the book captures the culture from the stages of life to the dress code, to the food, maize, firewood, and all the things you see at home. So it's home-based. It's a home-based book, if you know what I mean. And it's written in both isiXhosa and in English. So I explain everything in isiXhosa, and then I'll explain it in English. So it makes it easy for someone learning the language, so that they have someone to fall on when they don't understand. So it's a picture book. Like there's few pictures in the book, so that it gives people an idea of what I'm talking about, because it's really difficult to explain things related to culture when someone doesn't see what you're talking about. So that is what Don't Upset Xhosa is about conserving isiXhosa culture, because remember, now we are in a space of reconceptualizing ideas, from indigenous people, because everything is oral. So it's documentation of ideas. So I'm a big part of that, and I'm doing that based on isiXhosa. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. Just so everyone knows, Zoom has a habit of removing the clicks from Xhosa because it sounds like keyboard clicks. So they've got a very clever sound filter. So often when we're teaching, we're trying to teach the clicks, and then you just don't hear them. So for those of you who hear Sis Homba mispronouncing Xhosa and saying it's Zoom.
Why do they do that? Why do they do that? Is it like does it sound like you're swearing or what?
No, it's the clicks of the keyboard. So they've introduced a filter so that when someone's typing on their keyboard and talking, you won't hear. So they do something where they can filter out. In fact, even the rooster was crowing here just before this call when I was chatting with Mazwi, and I was like, Mazwi, can you hear the rooster? And he was like, no, and the rooster was loud. So somehow they're just very good at focusing on the one sound that's coming from the speaker. Anyways, I just wanted to make people. I'm going to complain to Zoom and say you need to classify your audio.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you for that. And I think when the book came out, and I think it also says somewhere in the book that you were partly inspired to write it for young Xhosa women who are being raised in the cities. They're growing up in the cities, going to, let's say, English schools, or not even, just modern schools, and not really being exposed to all the cultural traditions that you see really only in the village in a kind of proper way. And I know that was one of the main inspirations, but then also, of course, it is a book that people like myself or anyone who's interested in Xhosa culture will also therefore be able to use as an incredible resource.
I did that. I mean, sorry to break you.
No,
Oh, so I did that for Xhosa people who have grown up in the cities to kind of include them, because when I shared a lot of my experience and knowledge from a village point of view, people were like, "What is that? I didn't know that." So I figured that the market of the book was broad, because it was also among Xhosa people who have not been exposed in living in the villages. So people who grew up in the townships and cities and everywhere, I found it very interesting how the reception was, so yeah.
So it's quite interesting for me because, from the first time I went to what we used to call the Transkei. I still do call it the Transkei sometimes, but when I first went to the Transkei, it was when I was a kid with my parents. We'd go do hikes and we'd stay at different places, and I always loved it. And then I started going as a young adult. And obviously, one of the things that I've seen myself over this time is the rapid kind of urbanization of the youth, and obviously the increase of Western clothing, etc. And probably for a lot longer than that period, but it is something that is more and more noticeable. Like there's now Wi-Fi and internet, there's more electricity in the village. Is that quite a thing that the uncles, Don't Upset Omalume? Obviously, Omalume is the uncles, your mother's brothers specifically, but is that something that is an issue in the villages? Do you find that the elders are feeling like the youth are losing the culture? These youngsters are coming back from growing up in the cities. They don't speak deep Xhosa. They don't understand the rituals. Is that quite a topic in the villages amongst the elders at the moment? And then what do the youth feel? Do they feel a bit like, yeah, that elder stuff, traditional stuff is not so relevant anymore? Or are there a lot of youth still wanting to learn more and engage with the traditional knowledge?
So the concept "Don't Upset Malume" came from the fact that these kids are coming from town, they're studying in the cities, and they'll start speaking English. So Umalume doesn't understand much of English. So when I'm saying "Don't Upset Umalume," it's make an effort to speak more of his Xhosa, because Umalume doesn't understand that. So it came from that, and also I had observed that there was what is called ibuyambo, meaning homecoming. Like I realized that young people were more interested in knowing and connecting with their roots, with the rituals, with the ceremonies and everything. So yes, there is that gap, like young people not knowing much of Xhosa. But what I realized is that there is that interest. I've gotten a lot of questions about rituals around our customs, so that is a big hope. But don't upset Umalume. It means make an effort to speak more of his culture, because Umalume will not be happy when you're just rolling off with this English, so it came from that perspective. But I would say that there is curiosity from young people to know more about Xhosa. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine it's especially important when a young lady is coming to meet the new in-laws and meet the new.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
luckily for us, we can still get away with a bit of Xhosa, us outsiders, so to speak, who come to visit. But of course, I know how much people appreciate it when we do come in and speak even our little bit of Xhosa. Okay, beautiful. So something else I wanted to say to everyone who is listening in, I did include a link in one of the emails or a couple of the emails to add questions to a form, which I didn't see anyone did, but maybe that's just because of the timing of things. So if people do have any question that they want to ask to Sis Mercy, then guys, please do put it into the chat box, and Mazwi will regulate those, so to speak, or at least gather them. And then maybe we can bring in those questions if we have time today. So yeah, thanks for being here. And if something does pop up, please do feel free to put a question in the chat box. All right. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of topics in the book, really. I mean, it's huge, it's vast. So, we obviously are going to leave it for most of us to explore with our own versions of the book. I bought the Kindle, which is really great. I can just use the index and jump around to wherever I need to be in the book, which is really cool. So I'm quite happy I got it in that form. But obviously, you guys, maybe some of you have already got the book, who knows? So one of the things for me that we were talking about as well was this idea of balancing modern culture and traditional culture. So as an example, you're sitting in Oranda right now, like a rondavel, a round hut. I mean, Uronta, it sounds almost like that's a borrowed word from, I suppose, rond or round. Or so I'm wondering.
Ironte. It's borrowed from English or Afrikaans.
Yeah.
Disanga. In this course, it's called disanga. A circle.
So,
Yeah.
so is there an older name for a circular mud hut, or would it just be Indlu and Umzi when there's a collection of them as a homestead, or is there a specific word? But because nowadays, obviously, people talk about it because there's now modern architecture also making its way into the lalis, into the rural villages, and in people's lives in general if they live in a city. So maybe just chat to us a little bit about the history of the rondavel and also your perspectives on it, and any comments there.
So when you see Oranda, it's an evolved structure. So this is where it comes from. It comes from Hombakazi, that is the all grass hut. You see the small thing that they're small huts that people would enter into. Like in the old books, it's still there. It's just grass. Now you see it where there is umkweta or a sangoma in the family. They will have that hut that is built. The structure is from the ground, so it has evolved from that hut into a shorter hut made of mud bricks. It didn't have windows, if you remember well, and then it evolved. It had windows, that small windows that people would kind of put pillows. There's still some on the road when you drive down to Bulongol. They would put pillows, and then evolved to some that have windows now. So we don't have this kind of hut in Xhosa, Uronda, what you see now. It is an evolution over time. We are coming from all grass, but because remember, we have been nomadic people who would build here, move to where the pastures led us to where the water was. So we did temporary structures. So now we became more domesticated, and we started building, of course, with the Western, I think, influence somehow. And then of course, Oranda was always ours, and we took that from the grass from the ground and we put it on top of the mud bricks. So that's why. Otherwise, Panzi, meaning from Panzi to Panzi, meaning yeah. But it was still a circle, remember, because in our culture, we build in a circle. The homes were called Usha Intlandi, meaning the crows. They would have the main hut for the men, because remember, people had many wives before. So you'd have all the other wives, that is like this is the hut of the men, and then there'd be maybe the main wife, and then from the main wife, remember that it was normally said that it is the wife who is taking another wife for her husband. Labor relations, we'll talk about that later. But so it's all circles. So the entrance was the men's hut, and then you go to all the other huts. So we are people of circle. In our culture, when we're sitting in ceremonies or wherever, we sit in a circle. But now, because of the Christianization, the missionary, they introduced churches, people sitting in the benches, but that is not our style of sitting. That's why in our culture, people will say, don't sit behind me, I'll give you all my bad energy. I'll give you all my bad energy and bad luck. So we sit in circle open, so that you can look at everybody, see how everybody's feeling, the eye contact, the feelings in general. If someone is crying, with what they're talking, the facial expressions, are people alarmed, are people surprised? So you take account of each and every person in the room. So that is where the concept of Oranda comes from. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's so interesting, Sis Mercy. Like, when I Ndanditwasa back in the day, Emampondweni. So that was my real proper introduction to Xhosa or Impondo culture, was when I trained to be a Sangoma back in 2003, 2004. I'm not a Sangoma now, just so that nobody gets confused. But during that training process, which was actually in its own way an initiation for me into a kind of a sense of belonging into the culture, but also having a role, a very specific role in the family and in the homestead. And one of the things that always struck out for me was the value of a circular buildings and circular space, because whenever people gathered, it's exactly as you spoke about. Everyone's facing each other, sitting in a circle. Only on the most extreme occasions, when the place was packed, might there be a second row of people in front, like during an intlombe, a ceremony of sorts with lots of drumming and dancing. But generally, there's always a lot of space. You can fit a lot of people sitting around the circumference. And since then, I've done a lot of what I'm calling men's work, what people are calling men's work, where we sit in circles. And it's such an amazing dynamic for creating a sense of equality and a sense of connectedness between people. Whereas like at school and my whole life growing up, we always sat in rows, and usually there's a stage with a speaker, or there's a teacher at the front, you know, behind a table, or they're rectangular shaped tables. So again, you only can really talk to the people on either side of you. It's harder to see further on.
With
So
other people, yeah.
So it's something I've really appreciated, is that sort of the energy of a circle. And it's very much a part of Xhosa culture. Even the umzi, the homestead, as you were mentioning, whether there's many wives or not, there's usually a few houses that sort of are in a half moon shape leading to the kraal, Buhlanti. And besides that, and I'm not sure if this is in the book, but you know, this whole concept of permaculture, which everyone is very like, you know, in the modern day world, a lot of conscious earth-minded people are like, oh, permaculture, it's great. And it is great. I'm a huge fan. But the Xhosa homesteads are organically permaculturally minded, in the sense that the way they're shaped, they're aligned with the rising sun. You have a situation where the cows are in the kraal and their poop, the manure then ends up feeding into the crops, which are often built behind the kraal. So they form like a natural fertilizer. Obviously, the cow, what's it, ubulongwe? I can't remember the names, but it's like used for the mud hut.
Ubulongwe, yeah, the correct name, yeah.
And
meaning
it's
the
just,
compost.
So you can use using the cow dung literally for the floor of the houses, and it was amazing. I mean, sure, it was kind of a first time I saw it, and we were like smearing wet cow dung on the floor. For me, it was like, yo. But actually, it was amazing and beautiful, and the ground was always soft underfoot, and we could dance nicely, and it was just easy to clean. So I really appreciated it. But yeah, there was something you wanted to either read, I think, from the book, or was there more you wanted to say about the Rondavo? I'm not sure if it's.
No, I just wanted to read. So on the book, it's on page 83, where I'm just gonna read a small thing about Oranda, because normally people will ask me, why do you have these round huts and all that? So it's saying that almost every homestead in the Xhosa villages of the Eastern Cape, you'll find Oranda, a hut that is also known as a Rondaville. Oranda was inspired by Hombakazi, which is an old grass hut, as can be seen in the movie Italamawele, which is based on a book by S.E.K. Mkai. Hombakazi is rare these days, but it can still be spotted at homes of some amagqirha or traditional healers. They use the hut for their rituals and storage of their medicine and equipment. Oranda is normally indlu enkulu, the main house. When there are things to discuss, elders will hold their meetings Oranda. The beauty of Oranda is that people sit in a circle. Nobody is hidden behind another person. Oranda has deep symbolism of the Xhosa culture. There are two sides of Oranda. And then on the ekunene, on the right side, when the family meetings, women and men each sit on a side. This is a protocol that is observed during the casual family sitting. So I'm just elaborating on inside and around Oranda, whereby where it's coming from, and then what do you expect inside? Because there is, in our culture, you don't just sit anywhere. There's a place for everybody. Children are found this place, men, women, and all that. So behind the door side, it is where women sit. That is where, when a child is born, because remember before, children are born at home. That is why Maxhosa will say, when they're asking you your roots, they'll say, where is your umbilical cord? That is where the baby's umbilical cords would be buried, behind the door, on the wall or on the floor or somewhere up the roof. So Oranda is a very, not an intense, but it's a very complex space, you know, that is very intricate in our culture. So I just talk about this, and I'm elaborating more on that. Just what I've already talked about, just what I've already said. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I'm looking at it now on my Kindle app, and I can see there's a lot more there, talking into iziko and you know, obviously the iziko being the fireplace that used to be in the middle of the hut as well, so everyone would be warmed. Yeah. And I'm seeing this lovely piece about ukutsiba iziko, which I've heard the stories about, but we'll leave that for people. Just there was something I was asking you earlier as well. You know, I saw earlier this year you were celebrating the building of a new house, I think for your mother or the family home. And it's like a Western style house in the sense of, you know, it's not fully circle. fully. It's
Yeah.
not a round mud hut. So I wanted to just ask
It's
you
a
about,
modern house. Yeah, yeah.
yes, it's a modern house. So what are your experiences of that? Like, what is the function of that in terms of the homestead? I know that it's got pros and cons, and what's your experience with it, and how do you find it? I'd love to know more about how it fits for you in balancing. And I think the question was around, there's all these beautiful aspects of traditional culture, and then there are really practical and beautiful aspects of modern culture. So even someone like yourself, who is, I mean, obviously incredibly connected to roots and culture and tradition, you also are accessing and making use of modern tools, which is allowing us now to have this kind of circular gathering. So so that's one of the things I appreciate, is like gold from the past and gold from now, and finding ways to like create something that really has value for us as humans and as a community and society and as families, rather than people like totally rejecting the past and like only being modern, or completely rejecting modern stuff and like fully idolizing the past. So that's a bit of a context or background rant of sorts, but how's it for you with the houses? Let's go back to the house. Yeah, talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, the Xhosa culture is very good in pluralism. You see that in health, you know, that people will use allopathic medicine and also use their indigenous medicine. So to us, people always ask, how do you balance between the modern world and the indigenous world? There's nothing to balance. We are very adaptable people. So if a modern house to you is comfortable, it is convenient with running water and everything, that is exactly what we want. But you'll find that within the same property, that's why we have many houses. You'll find that at home, for example, we have two rondavels, which is the main hut. We also do have the house. The house is mainly it has bedrooms, it has sitting room area, it has a fireplace if you want to read, it has a dining area. But you find out that we spend most of the time Oranda, because that's where we grew up at, and that's what we relate with. So I don't take it as choosing between this or that. Convenience is convenience to humanity. So I think that's how we deal with it. In the village, you'll be surprised now, most people have modern houses, and it shows that the parents have educated their children. They've sent their children to school so that their children bring whatever modernity and whatever convenience, but adapting it to the culture and the customs. So it is that balance. We flip between those two like nothing. If we need to sit on the table and eat with a fork and knife, we'll do that now. And for dinner, we'll eat a traditional dish sitting on the floor, eating with our hands. So I think that is the perks of being colonized. You need to switch between. You need to adapt. It is resilience that every other person has. If you have been, if your ways have been deemed as backward, as superficial, as not enough and outdated, you kind of find a way of adapting to the new setup, because it's forcing you. We are talking about apartheid regime that forced us to be what we were not, you know. So we have kind of found a way to adjust and adapt. But on the way, again, we have had people who lose their indigenous livelihoods in the face of being forced to succumb to these modern livelihoods. So it is adjusting, it is adapting. We have done that beautifully in the villages.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I love this idea of pluralism. I mean, one of the, I consider myself to have been hugely blessed and gifted, and in a way, gifted with a kind of a freedom, because, I went to these fancy, expensive schools in Cape Town, Bishops. I went to UCT. I grew up in leafy suburbs, to the large, most of the time I was in a lot of comfort and a lot of privilege. And ironically, when I became a Twasa and was living there in the village, and like, I was being a Twasa, you're basically a servant, even the children can tell you what to do. And I would do a lot of cleaning, a lot of scrubbing, sweeping, washing, fetching water, fetching wood. But it gave me another kind of a freedom, where I realized exactly what you're saying. This, like, there's a pluralism, there's different ways to do things, and there can often be a lot of joy in ways. And I became quite accustomed to some of those rural styles of living. And I actually really appreciated them. In fact, if I had my way, and I still do plan to promote this as a concept, I would like every South African youngster to spend a period of time, almost like national service, living in a rural village. similar to what I did at the age of 22. Maybe they can go at 19 or 20, but having that exposure to living in a village where you are so much more connected to the elements and to village life and to simple living, I think is a really important part of education. You said something in your book about you were raised by the village and you're a village, village girl by heart. It's what made you. And I'm like, exactly, that's the kind of thing that people like myself who growing up in a suburb, we don't even know what we don't have. We don't even know what we don't know. So for me, living in the village for that year was hugely valuable, and it's one of the reasons I love to go back. So there was something about that though, which was electricity and Wi-Fi. So I want to ask your opinion, because I'm one of these romantic umlungus who kind of doesn't want the Lalis to get electricity. I'm like, no, and I don't want the Lalis to get Wi-Fi. Okay, I mean, I'm speaking, I'm exaggerating. But one of the reasons is because when I was there without electricity, I loved the way we all went to sleep at sunset and we all woke up in the morning. And I loved without having cell phones. I mean, I even remember my youth without cell phones. There was something so much different to some of the qualities of interaction I see nowadays with people and a lot of cell phones. There's this almost like an addiction to electricity now. Like if we have 2 hours without electricity, everyone freaks out, Luckily, load shedding is kind of reconditioning us. But sometimes I'm like, is it a good thing for the Lalis to have electricity? Obviously, it is good in some ways, but are there places where it's not good? Same with Wi-Fi. Like, it's almost like a nightmare for me that I'm going to go to Bulungula and find all the kids sitting on cell phones, like doing this, that freaks me out. And I wonder how, well, firstly, what's your opinion? Because you live there, it's your place, your space. So I wonder what your perspective is on it. And is there a way to like regulate it in some kind of a way, or is it happening naturally?
I always laugh when people feeling nostalgic when they come to Bulungula and say, oh, when I came here 10 years ago, there were no poles of electricity. It was really nice then, sunset and all that kind of vibe. And I'm like, the desire of humanity to be entertained by others' backwardness is very interesting. And you find that a lot from tourists, wanting to keep places where they are because they find it cute and connecting. Because remember, when you're coming to these villages, you are coming to a place where there's no electricity. Remember that there's a frustrated child who cannot read at night, who walks 6 kilometers to school and back another 6 kilometers, So for you, it's just a window, just a small window of your life that you spend here, and that you feel like, oh, you're connecting to the people, but it's an inconvenience to others, because that's why we have a lot of brain drain in the villages, because there's no access to basic services such as water. There's no running water here, such as electricity. Electricity is coming in now. So I think people should remove that mentality from them, that, oh, it's going to be so spoiled, it's going to be so. People are going to adapt. People are going to adjust. At home, for example, in my village, we've had electricity since 2020. I'll tell you that my mother still makes fire outside. She still boiling like a bathing water outside. She still cook outside. We only use electricity for the fridge, basically, because we have solar for lights and everything. So you realize that it's nothing that much of a change to the livelihoods. Of course, over time, but you realize that again, people are just, it will never stop that we are in the most beautiful part. Because it has electricity doesn't mean it makes it less beautiful. The fact that there is exposure, people will know better, people will know more, people will acquire more, we want more things, we want knowledge, children will be exposed. I think there is a little bit of the Western mentality being entertained by our backwardness. When they come to Africa, they want to see animals, they want to see lions everywhere, that kind of vibe. I think to a certain extent, there is that from people. For example, I mean, I've had this conversation from people coming from the Western Cape, that they're feeling bad that there is electricity. And I'm like, as someone 34 years later who has grown up in these villages, I'm happy that there's going to be electricity. I am aware of the change that will come with, that there will be TV and children will be watching stuff that you don't want them to watch. But there's regulation that happens. Parents are not stupid, There's a lot of adaptation and adjustment. So there will be just that adjustment. So we should open a window for that adjustment. The cities were not always like that. In the 1800s, people were fetching water from outside, and now they have water inside. There has been an adjustment, And so that is my perspective when it comes to that. People romanticize what a village should look like, what a village should be. If I did not have now the internet that I have, I wouldn't be addressing you in this webinar, you know? So we should always have a flip of a coin. There should always be a flip of a coin. That is not all doom and gloom that electricity is coming, that, oh, it's spoiling so much views. You will get used to the poles, my friend. You'll still see the beach. Huh? That's how I yeah. Exactly. It's development that has to happen to humanity.
100%.
No, but we are, yeah.
I'm very happy to claim the romantic Umlungu archetype.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
But
and people even get sad and threaten to not to come back. And I'm like, you're not gonna come back because we have electricity. Wow. So our backwardness and our poverty entertains you. Thank you. You know, like, wow.
No, totally. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm actually very excited about the Bulungula Lodge got that, I don't know if it's like a 2 million or a 1 million rand grant to put in solar and upgrade the electricity. I'm very happy because it means I can potentially move out to the lodge and even to the village and stay longer period. So
they'll have an en-suite option now, like they're building that actually. So you don't even have to go out.
Yeah,
and showers, get showers, solar showers. Yeah.
The amount of times I've tried to like run the business from the village and I have to walk up these huge hills to find like this really bad internet and take half an hour to like send a 5-second voice note. It's been a nightmare. So I'm actually
I do this in my heart, so anything is possible.
Yeah, so it is exciting, and don't worry, I totally get both sides of the coin. And also, you know, I just so you know, this is slightly related, but I have my own as well, and this might be part of the tendency of Westerners to romanticize like rural and you know, low indigenous cultures. I have a yearning for my ancestral homeland, or a place where I have a village, or where my ancestors lived and were buried, or where my grandfather and grandmother still are somewhere, you know, making a fire, some place that I can go back to and rest or recuperate or get wisdom. And I don't have that. I don't. Like, all my grandparents, they come from different countries. And before that, their grandparents and parents were all kind of migrant laborers to different parts of Lithuania and Germany and England and wherever. So for me, it's interesting to note, you know, there's this like a yearning that I have, like I'm jealous that you have a village where your mother and your grandmother are, where you have a culture that you can really claim. And definitely when I have been and when I've seen, that is also part of it, is this kind of thing of like, oh my God, what you guys have is so precious. And don't let it go too quick, you know, because once it goes, and I think you said something as well about, you know, your mom still cooks on the fire, even though she has the electricity. And I've seen that in a lot of other lalis with power. And it made me think, yeah, she's doing it. But, you know, when these elders go, and I think you said it maybe in one of your posts yesterday, when the elders go in 10 years, 15 years, you know, like we are the next generation of elders. It's the kids, and how much are we going to still cook on a fire and these things? And I know what it's like cooking in Oranda with the smoke and like burning eyes. And before dawn, I used to do it as it was, and it's not pleasant. But it is a romanticization. Thank you for giving your response. I really appreciate it. So we could go on about the book for a long way, but I think we're kind of aiming for roughly an hour here, which gives us another 20 minutes. So I'm going to contain myself. And I'm going to ask a little bit about Freedom Day. No, I know you were born around the time of the new South Africa, and like
I was born before. I was born before, believe it or not.
Yes, I don't believe it, but you know, how what's your opinion at the moment on freedom in South Africa?
Okay, before I answer that, I see that someone is on the inbox is trying to ask where they can find the book. So the book is available with me. When you want a signed copy, I can send it. It's available at Exclusive Books. It's available at Bargain Books. It's available on Take a Lot. It's available on Loot, a hard copy. It's only the Kindle version that is available on Amazon. Yeah, I thought I should.
I see it's a question about the Europe. So Europe wouldn't be able to order on Loot.
Yeah, it's only the Kindle version on Amazon that's available for Europe. But I do send via DHL. It's more expensive. Like I'm sending books now to France because someone wants a hard copy. So it happens. So it's quite, you know, DHL, the prices vary, but people do get copies. I do send around the world.
So then I
we
think they can, I think that if that was David who asked, or was it Simon? Somebody asked, but
Simon was asking.
yeah, maybe the best thing would be to get hold of you, and in the emails that are going out with this, and we will add the links again, but you can get hold of Mercy directly, I think, Simon, and just ask her to order and she can post you. I think that's a good solution.
Yeah. Okay. So you're asking about freedom. I think, yeah.
I'm now worried I'm taking it into the land of philosophy, and maybe I should stick to Xhosa specifically and the book, and maybe I can tie in the freedom thing, I guess. Let's say that the book you've written in Xhosa and English, and I've got two questions, one relating to freedom and one relating to the practicality. When English and Xhosa are translated, they often, you know, what do they say? Xhosa is tolikwa, like it.
Yeah, you don't translate.
Yeah. Did you have to write them separately as two separate books, or did you write it in one language and then rewrite it in another, or have it translated, or what? How was that process for you?
I started by writing the English version because, again, I am that polluted, if you want to say. It's much more easier for me to put things in English. And then after that, I was sitting with an English manuscript that I translated. But in between, sometimes I would write like at the same time, like about this subject, write in English, same time, write in Xhosa. So it's not easy to translate Xhosa into English into Xhosa. So because I am the storyteller here, I know, and I'm telling it from a point of view of Xhosa. We are talking about the Xhosa culture here. So it was not difficult to translate because the root language of the stories that I'm telling is Xhosa. So I wasn't translating from English. I was just retelling the story, you know. So I told the stories twice. Yeah, I did it twice because in English, as an English writer, I'm catering for that and simplifying it in that regard, and putting a lot of Xhosa words that I got put in italics or in brackets. So I told the stories twice, basically.
Great. It sounds like it's going to be a really nice resource for us as well to see, you know, because often my students and myself included, when we want to learn something from English to Xhosa, we often try to translate direct, and it's often not the way something is said.
It makes it read very, very, very. You can read Mlungu writing. Mlungu. You can tell that it was a white person who formulated this sentence, because when you're translating, like I do translation jobs, and sometimes I catch myself trying to do a direct translation, and I'm like, I have to digest this and take it out as Xhosa, you know. So the root is English, but you should always retell the story, you know, basically.
Sure. So now getting back to the freedom thing, with this topic. So for me, one of the reasons Ubuntu Bridge started was obviously my own journey of learning Xhosa in the Lalis, and people asking me. I remember when I came back from the village 2004, I was a volunteer in a Xhosa high school, and basically over that next year, Xhosa people just continuously said, "Yo, please teach other people." Like that, you know, they were so excited that I was speaking and learning Xhosa. And they would say, please teach others. And then also people who didn't speak Xhosa would hear me talking, see the interactions, and they'd say like, oh, please teach us Xhosa. So even though I was still my own version of a beginner and intermediate learner, which in some ways I still am, I started teaching as a response to people asking. And that's why I sort of think of the Sangoma calling. It's kind of shifted and changed for me into the calling to teach Xhosa. And hence Ubuntu Bridge is in a lot of ways like my version. And I'm still feel like I'm Twasering here. And I'm still cleaning the dishes, but the main point is that it was a hugely valuable process for me learning Xhosa, and not just for me to feel like deeper sense of connection to South Africans, but also getting a closer sense to who I am as a South African, you know, because even though my ancestors are coming from all over, there is this feeling of like, this is my country, this is my land, this is where I belong. And learning the language, speaking the language, connecting with culture, etc., has been it's been valuable, like straight up for me. The question though is, you know, Mandela was the other reason. Like he very explicitly said that for reconciliation to happen in South Africa, we all need to learn each other's languages. So Mandela said, you know, and it's a quote that I've found it online, but I wish I could get a video of him saying it, but of course that's not going to happen. But it's quoted in a newspaper article of him just before the 94 elections, or before, somewhere around before May 10. So maybe he'd just been, I don't know what was happening. Might have been his first speech as president, but he said, we need to learn each other's languages as a path to reconciliation. And he was talking all directions. Xhosa speakers must learn Afrikaans and English. English speakers should learn Afrikaans and Xhosa, etc., in all these different ways. And my kind of perspective at being someone who's teaching Xhosa and trying to motivate, I mean, that's my main job. It's like not even teaching Xhosa. My main job is like jumping up and down, going, let's learn Xhosa, you know, like, let's make it fun. Let's do it together. Like, let's connect with people. Let's find good ways to be able to do it, keep it relevant, etc. And it's most of the time been a pretty hard job. But what I'm getting to is sometimes I question, why am I even doing this? There's like a million things I'd rather do, or maybe not rather do, but could do, and could probably, you know, be able to buy my own mud hut if I did them. But is it worth it? Should we be learning Xhosa? Like, should I be learning Xhosa? Should I be teaching Xhosa? Should I be promoting Xhosa? Like, should other people be learning? Like, why am I still promoting this thing? It's 29 years later, you know. We're like sitting here in 2023. A lot of the Xhosa people I know, or Black people I know, are not necessarily learning their language and their culture. The world is moving on. Mandarin is probably going to be needed. Who knows what languages AI is going to speak? You know, the world is moving on. And so I find myself questioning, what is the point? Should I still be doing this? And so my question to you is, how do you find Xhosa? Like, I know you're promoting it also to young Xhosa ladies coming back from the city, or and the youngsters, but is it also of value to you that people like ourselves are learning Xhosa, getting involved? Does it have a value in the space? Does it help make Xhosa more relevant? I don't know. What are your thoughts and feelings on it? And to what degree? And that's a whole nother level, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're speaking integration, if we're speaking about the Rainbow Nation, integration means language too. As someone who has lived abroad, I've lived in France, for example, for 1 year. And in my program, I had to learn French. You see how you connect with people when you can speak their language. I think I stayed for 3 months without speaking French because I was listening. I'm good in listening first and then learning. But I saw the switch in relationship and relating with the people when I could speak French. When I started speaking French, all of a sudden there was lightness, you know, and being welcomed in the space, because I was speaking the language. I was connecting with people. I was speaking to people's hearts. So in South Africa, we have a setup whereby we have the Black people or non-white people have banded, you know, to learn, banded to our backs to learn English and Afrikaans. You know, that is well spoken. We speak English like it's our mother tongue, you know, and that means that it is important for the other group that had not learned the indigenous language to learn languages to learn. I mean, I've watched the reception of the people when there's a white person, woman or man, who can speak isiXhosa, and they are normally given clans and they can sing the praises. It's the most touching thing. It's the most beautiful thing, because the person has spent time learning about your language, learning about your history, the same we've learned about your people Shakespeare's and whatever kings and queens that exist in Southland and everywhere, you know. So it's a give and take. There is no time where we're gonna say indigenous languages are outdated. In France, I saw how the government in France was actually investing so that the languages, the old languages that are still there, that are left, that they are trying to teach them in schools, they're trying to bring them back, they're trying to revive the old cuisine, you know. So there is no time where we are going to say, okay, now we are done, AI has taken over, we can do away with indigenous people. The world at large is investing in improving indigenous livelihoods. So if we are to connect in South Africa, we know that there's a big issue with connecting with cultures, between Black and white, because of our background, because of our history in South Africa. But there is no time where we are going to say, okay, you don't need to connect, you don't need to learn any indigenous language. That time doesn't exist, because then we'll never connect to the level that we want to, because it's a rainbow nation in the books, but in reality, we all know that once we disagree in South Africa, one little argument between races, it becomes a race card, and people are yelling and shouting on social media. That shows how much superficially connected we are. Our connections are not deep, because language is a lot of things. Language is a lot of things. If you want to go deep, learn the language. When I travel, for example, in East Africa, the little Kiswahili that I can speak, or the little Luganda from Uganda that I can speak, it goes a long way, because people feel like you're making an effort, you know. So I'm always humbled when I see people who are learning isiXhosa. Xhosa is not an easy language. It's a very difficult language, but you got soft inside because someone is making an effort, because someone realizes that the old model that others should bend to their backs to serve others or to please others, it does not work. It has not worked. It will not work. So it is reaching each other where we are, because, for example, I've watched tourists who are coming along the Wild Coast and they are looking at an older woman who's speaking Xhosa, smiling, even tearing. But the pain is that I don't understand her. I wish I could hear what she's saying, connection. So it will still pan if we don't make an effort. So it is an effort. It is connection with people. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, you're reminding me what I know, and it's exactly that. It's connection, and it's probably the thing let's not put, I was going to say the most grateful, but let's just say that it's such a huge part of my life. And I almost can't imagine without what Xhosa has given me, what that connection that you speak about has given me, even to my own ancestors, to ancestors in general. The culture has taught me so much. Feeling welcomed just is worth so much to me. And I look at my fellow South Africans and I can see that there's almost, for a lot who don't speak, I can see the way that it impacts their whole experience of being here. There's still this connection. There's still this big gap that they haven't yet crossed in themselves as an experience of being. Whereas for me, there's even things about that everyone else complains about with the government, which obviously are not necessarily good. I'm just one example, government or wherever. And I find it a lot easier to accept or tolerate or understand or have empathy or find. And I don't know if that's just the language, but it's a whole shift for me that has happened. And I'm so appreciative of it and grateful for it. So that is one of the reasons that I continue to do it, hoping to support and share that. I see Stephen has also commented that some people are good with languages and some are not. And I know what he means. And you also said Xhosa is difficult. And I think any language gets to a point where it's difficult. There's just no doubt. English compared to Xhosa is ridiculous. English doesn't follow a lot of rules. It's such a mix mash of different languages. It's not phonetically spelt. English can be a nightmare, whereas Xhosa is obviously phonetic and it follows a lot of rules that you can almost always predict. I have found very few exceptions in Xhosa grammar that don't make sense. If they don't make sense grammatically, they make sense in the way that the sound has shifted two vowels together. So for me, I think any language reaches a point where it's hard, to understand it on a mother tongue. I still can't watch a Xhosa film in full Xhosa and then tell someone in Xhosa what's happening. I can't do that because I never do it. My level of Xhosa is restricted to conversing with people from time to time in a village, but mainly in the cities where we all talk English and code switch, or I'm teaching students who are all way, way below me. So I struggle to get to a place where I can, if I read your book, I'm going to be studying each page to understand what you're saying. And that's how I will learn. And I think that's, when people say Xhosa is difficult or some people are not good at language, I always think to myself, well, that's funny because every single Black person in South Africa to a large degree, or 99%, have learned English.
Can speak English.
And to an extraordinary degree. When I see people, a government official again, or a teacher or someone official talking and they've got a strange accent or they mispronounce a word and someone's like, they mispronounce that word. And I'm like, dude, they just said they're talking about a deep subject in English. They clearly don't speak it mother tongue and that's how much they know. Meanwhile, most, of us can't even really do much beyond greeting. And my thing about language learning is that we learn when it's a necessity. The human brain, if it can learn one language, it can learn 10. It's just a question of whether or not that's of value to that person, because it takes so much, RAM to learn a language, and it takes persistence. So it's easy to tap out and say, oh, I'm not good at languages, which a lot of people do. And it's like, no, you're just not good at learning a language the first time you hear it, which is what you want. And the truth is that you have to go through a long phase where you feel stupid. People think you are stupid and it's uncomfortable. You're disempowered. And those are not comfortable feelings. And I think anyone who doesn't like those feelings can just be like, oh, I'm not good at languages. And most of my friends and family do this. So this is not targeting anyone. It's most people. I'm not that good at languages. I only speak English well, and I speak English not that great, but I can speak. And, it's efforts. And I think that's important. And for me, I'm always driven by the facts, what you said, the amount of Xhosa or South Africans who are forced to learn English and Afrikaans just for their bread and butter. On the one hand, it's an advantage because they're forced to learn, so that is a reason they learn. But on the other hand, it's like it's uncomfortable and unpleasant. And I really, for me, it's a gift to people when I'm put myself in that position of being the one who's like not really sure how to express myself. I can't make the joke so well. Ooh, I think I misunderstood. Was that a idiom that they just used? And you know, that's one of the gifts that I like to think I give back, and it's not always comfortable, and it does take a bit of courage. And I don't know, I like to think that the rewards are worth it. But for me, I don't know if it's an excuse about not being good at languages. It's usually English speakers that say that. So we're getting close to 12.
Yeah, and I have another meeting coming up just in 15 minutes. Yeah, so.
Okay, so then what we're going to do is, I haven't seen any deep pressing questions come through, and I have asked, I think, the most important questions, and we can always do another one of these at some point. Maybe next time I'll be there in the Lalies as well, and we can just do it live.
No, I'm happy to have questions. Let's hear what people say, like what people would like to ask. That would be amazing for me. Yeah, I'd love that.
Let's open it to the floor. I mean, guys, if you can put there's a little finger up, hand up emblem. Maybe if you can do that just to see, and then we can take a question or a comment from whoever's keen. I'm not seeing any at the moment. Well, look, while we're waiting for a hand up, something I can say is that those places to buy the book, we will send them on an email to people. So guys, don't worry about that. We'll send that information through. And if not, you can always message us and we can connect you directly with Mercy. And yeah, Rain has put a puppy dog emoji. I don't know if that's meant to be a hand up, but
sorry.
Rain, go for it.
It was the first one that popped up on my phone, and I couldn't find the hand. Anyway, hi guys.
Hello.
It's really lovely to meet you, Mercy. May I call you Mercy until I learn your full name?
Yes. My mother calls me Mercy, so I relate more to that. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was really beautiful. Thank you, Craig. I don't really have a question. I just want to say, thank you for creating these spaces for people like me, a white South African, to learn more. I've only had 2 classes with Ubuntu Bridge at the moment, learning isiXhosa, and just building my courage, starting to speak to some friends more. And I was at the police station yesterday and had a full hello, how are you kind of situation. And just that connection that you speak of is so important. And living in this country, I can't believe it's taken me 30 years to learn this language. And I always say that if I have children one day, I'd love for them to learn this language from a very young age, so that they can connect more. And it's so important. And not just with isiXhosa. I mean, there's so many languages in this country. Yeah. So many beautiful languages, beautiful cultures. So I'm just really grateful I found you guys in this place, and thank you for sharing. And would love to get your book. I'll be in contact with you, and would love to read it. And just a comment. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Of course, this is. Mercy.
There's a question from check the chat. There's a question from Bruce.
Yeah. Do you want to respond to Bruce's question about all the languages, and does anyone know them all, and are they being diluted?
Can you repeat the question?
So I think what he's saying is that there's obviously 11 languages, and there's such a richness of language here. So it's quite tricky to learn them all and to honor them all. And I think there was something about, can they be diluted? I mean, in my experience, Xhosa is very close to isiZulu, Siswati, and isiNdebele. So they are all
isiNguni. They are grouped. Yeah. Tswana, Sotho-Pedi grouped.
Exactly.
Venda, I don't know under which group Venda is, but they can be grouped. So for example, it's very for example, I can hear isiZulu, I can hear isiNdebele, I can hear Swati. I fully understand those. And then isiSotho, I can hear a little bit. So I think because they're related, it's easy for us. It's like French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese. The people can pick up. So it's a matter of that, grouping them.
Exactly. And there are definitely guys there in Joburg who can speak a lot of languages.
They can speak, people who live in Joburg can switch.
Exactly. And like Karabo, who teaches Xhosa with us here, you know, her dad is Venda and her mom is Xhosa. So she can obviously speak Venda.
She grew up in Johannesburg, and she
and if you
can
grew up there, then you
all
can
around
speak
her.
Xhosa, Sotho-Pedi. So it is, there's definitely people, Tata Bruce, that speak them all. And you know, for me, I find that wherever I go, using a similar kind of style of learning, I can pick up 10 words in Sotho or Tswana or in Shangaan, which is also anyways, and it's really is helpful for connecting. So I just want to, as a
Any
final
other questions or no?
I think to wrap it up, Sisomba, like obviously you are there in Bulungula, and we have done 2 of our yoga Xhosa retreats, the yoga Xhosa retreats. This year we're going to come in June. That's the plan. We don't yet have enough people signed up, but we're going to come June, which is nicer weather, less rain, so it'll be easier to get in.
Yeah.
But this year you're going to be officially, like, you know, offering some activities for people. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you have in mind for guests that come on the retreats, or even in general, I guess? Then.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be available for conversations, deeper conversations, asking more about the book and about livelihoods in general. And because I do beads, we're gonna do together like a simple string of beads, like with Xhosa names, Xhosa, like Molo, Unjani, and Nkosi, like, so I'll have that. But Craig and I are still like fine-tuning what more can I offer. But yeah, I'll be available because I'm a student now. So I need to kind of split my time, but I'm happy to have conversations and have the books and have sessions with people.
Maybe you could do business coaching for us and book writing courses.
No, that would be intense. Yeah. Anyway,
we'll have to come for longer. Thank you for that. I see Mama Mel has asked, what's your reaction when you see non-Xhosa people wearing Xhosa style jewelry or clothing? Is it complimentary or inappropriate in your view, given that you do sell some of those things?
I've recently talked to a friend about this. She's Afrikaans, and she gave me a jacket because it was African print, because she felt like she was not worthy to wear it. And I felt sad because she's young. We were born around about the same time. And I was like, there is something about the South Africans of European roots that they don't feel worthy. They are scared of maybe appropriating culture and all that. But I think it's a subject that needs to be unpacked on its own, like the guilt around wearing traditional clothes. I don't see a problem because, I mean, I do have friends who love beads. I do have friends who love the putting imbol on their faces. I think that's a subject we need to talk about. It's a very big subject. I'm happy she asked that because there's always a worry of appropriating, but there's nothing wrong with it. Actually, if you come to the village and you wear umbhaco and you put beads and everything, the mamas will be pulling you this and that side, complimenting you. So yeah, Tara Rose is asking something.
Just before we change subject to Twasa, I just wanted to add, on our second York Xhosa retreat, all the mamas dressed us all up in traditional clothing, especially the women, and put them with the iqina, like the headdress, and Manolwazi was there. We got some cool photos of everyone looking like Lithuanian peasants, to be honest. Sorry, but it's awesome actually. But the main thing is, you know, when you choose to wear something from another culture, like myself, when I choose to wear something, which is not often, I mean, I've got my beads that are symbolic for me of Ubuntu Bridge and like my Twasa time, but I don't walk around in full Xhosa gear. And I know that if I did, it's about what is my relation to those clothes, because I will attract.
And also, what is the event? What is the event sometimes? Yeah.
What is the event? Make the context mean something, but also it will make people potentially engage me on it. And then it's, what is my relation to it, you know? So I think if you have a relationship to it and a friend gave you the gear, or, you know, that's something, it's all about relationship. And I think when people usually don't like cultural appropriation, it's when people have taken a sacred headdress from Native American culture and they've turned it into a party.
A spare, put it at a restaurant in Spare.
or make a brand out of it and turn it into something that's not even owned by those people. So if you sort of, you know, overly making a lot of, you know, I guess it's very difficult, because who's to say, you know, people do get blessed all the time in these ways. But it's a great question, and you're right, it needs to be unpacked. Tara Rose, who has recently become a Twasa, hence the question of, what are your feelings about non-Xhosa people doing Ukutwasa, which is the training to become Igriha or Isangoma? And because, I mean, that's also a huge topic of conversation, which I will also want to throw all sorts of, I mean, it could be a whole another talk, but do
It
you
is
have
a spiritual journey, Tara. So I do not judge people because there are people who follow their journeys. I mean, for example, in my Xhosa culture, there are people who will go and Xhosa in Swaziland, and that means they're following that route of spirituality. So I believe that it is a spirituality that someone relate to, you know. So of course, you know, there's nothing to judge there, but it's something that needs to be broken down, something that needs to be talked about. And especially, I would maybe out of here, I would love to have a chat with you about what you think. I'm happy to have a conversation with you on WhatsApp and how you're feeling and the whole development. I mean, I'd love to hear, so that maybe if you have some insecurities, we can talk about that. I'm happy to have that conversation with you, Tara. Yeah.
That's a beautiful answer and a very lovely invitation. So I'll connect Tara with you, Mercy, on WhatsApp so that you guys can chat further. Guys, I think I'm going to sum it up because if you must have a meeting in the next 7 minutes now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really, this is not a conversation that's ending. It's one that will continue. And again, Sis Mercy, Hombakazi ngande kasiyabulela kakhulu sisi. Siyabulela dadewethu.
Guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Yeah.
No, thank you for what you do. Thank you to everyone for being here today. And we'll see you all soon. Come join us in the village. And what else can I say, guys? Just that we are grateful. Siyabulela kamaku. We'll see you on the emails and we'll see you on the socials and elsewhere. Blessings.
Thank you. Bye.
You guys want to open your thing and say bye? You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.